Every summer
Top 100.
Every summer
Top 100. He's got a voice that's really the bomb. He'll make a choice that'll aggravate Tom. I hate to spoil it, but when all's said and done, Merchant of Venus gonna be number one.
It is Sunday, about 3:15 at Dice Tower Con. People are pretty much heading out. The library is closed. A lot of folks clearing up the table for the last time. We've basically run out of games to play. But you still have some games to hear about as we go through number 20 through 11.
20. Antique.
Alright, let's kick off this set with my favorite of the Mac Gerdts games. That's Antica. In this game you are trying to achieve certain milestones. And some of these are technological, some are conquering territory, some are just battling your opponents, taking out their temples. And the first player to reach a certain number of these, based on the number of players, wins the game. Now, you do this using the famous Mac Gerdts rondel system. You can collect resources from the board at one point in the rondel, and then on the other side you can use those resources to do stuff. And you're sort of bouncing around and maybe paying extra to skip a couple of spaces. Do you go slowly around the rondel, or do you jump as fast as you can to get back around to that action that you know is going to be very useful before your opponents can react to it? It's a delicious game. It's super fun. Dry, certainly. If you need to be a fan of Euros here, even though there's conflict, this is certainly a Euro-style conflict game on a map. It's much more about resource management than it is about having a giant army. But efficiency is the name of the game, and that race to see who can achieve certain milestones first it's pretty cool. It's a blast. Antica, number 20.
19. Remember me? Robo Rally.
Alright, like a pizza delivery out of the game shelf, it's Robo Rally. I pined over Robo Rally for a long time when I first got into gaming. The Wizards of the Coast edition, the original edition was, actually no, maybe this is the third edition, that was out of print and it faded away. Wizards of the Coast stores were closing all over the country. I totally missed my opportunity to jump in. So I was delighted when the last Avalon Hill edition was released, and I was able to sort of, build up my collection, and I liked what they had done with the system in the last iteration. Robo Rally is a game about programming robots to go through basically an obstacle course of deadly traps and lasers and conveyor belts, trying to tag flags around the board and get back to start, or just hit the last flag before your opponents. It's a race. You're shooting your opponents, you're dodging lasers, and also making mistakes, because as you take damage, it gets harder to program your robot. You may have registers locked in your program, and you have to survive somehow. I have not yet played this with the kids, although I'll get to similar games in a bit that they have enjoyed. So I think this one should hit the table with them soon. Again, the usual caveat. Make a small map. Don't be fooled by these giant maps that look like they'd be a blast to travel 4 boards across. You'll be there all day. Small boards, 2, 3 at the most. You just take my word for it. I have not played the latest iteration of Robo Rally, which I know changes a good number of mechanisms, but the quality of the components, I hear, has gone down pretty significantly. So for now, I'm going to stick with my Avalon Hill edition. I've even acquired a couple of old copies of the game to get more boards and some of the pewter minis to go in this edition. I love Robo Rally. It's my number 19.
18. Splendor.
Splendor was one of my favorite games of the year when it was released. It is another resource management sort of game. You're acquiring these chips that represent different color gems, and then spending those gems to get more cards, which not only get you points, but also produce more gems. So you're building this engine and trying to efficiently reach 15 points before your opponents. You can earn nobles by getting certain combinations of colors that earn you extra points. I'm holding the expansion box, which holds everything now. of course it does. The original box was this size and had a bunch of air in it. I had to throw the insert away, but forget that. I haven't played with the expansions yet. I just, like yesterday, put all this in one box. Splendor is another game that has performed wonderfully with family, folks slightly outside the gaming hobby. It's dead simple to teach. The feel of those chips, although folks have said this game is nothing without these chips, I think it really helps to engage people in the game, to actually have them playing with these solid poker chip style components. But I think it's so simple to explain to folks, to get people engaged immediately, to see that light glow in their eyes. Is like, oh, if I do this, I get my engine going, and I can start doing this more easily. Ooh, I gotta beat you to that noble, so I'm gonna get a third brown card, and it's great. Sometimes these simpler games can be more successful than some of these much more complicated rule sets, and Splendor certainly does that. It's my number 18.
17. Time Stories.
Number 17 is Time Stories. The box doesn't look like much. Pretty stark. That's because Time Stories is a system. It's designed, it's almost like a console that you then plug an adventure into. It's a game about time travel. You travel back to a certain time period based on which adventure you've plugged in, a deck of cards, and you then explore that deck, all of the different locations and encounters that you may have. And you're probably going to screw up, and you're probably going to run out of time. You have a certain number of time units that you get at the beginning, and you're going to have to reset. But that's the core of the game. You then have to reset from the beginning of the adventure, but now you have some knowledge. You may have acquired an item or a map or some sort of bit of information that you can then avoid or know to go straight to, maybe hit this from a different angle. You need to explore each of these decks of cards in order to eventually solve the scenario and win that particular version of the game. There are multiple decks of cards that plug into this system. I think if you're just looking at this as a single one-off, there's one adventure in this box. No, that's not really worth it. You sort of have to invest into continuing with this product and getting more decks to play. You can then run those decks for other people, which I have done on a few occasions. You could always trade those decks away to other folks that have the system. This brings to mind the adventure games that I enjoyed playing as a kid. King's Quest, Space Quest, Police Quest. That you have to explore the location and solve puzzles. Many of these have some really neat puzzle aspects, hidden images, ways to combine items into ways that you didn't know. You will discover something that opens up a whole other wing of the map that you can now explore. And that I find exciting. Every new deck of this I want to explore. I want to uncover all of the material. I want to see all the cards. I want to experience the feeling of that particular scenario. I think Space Cowboys has done a great job in creating that feel in this game. And I can't wait. I have a couple of decks just waiting to be played. I just have to get the group back together, and it excites me just thinking about it. Time Stories, number 17.
16. Legendary Encounters.
Number 16 is another box you don't want to turn on its side. That is Legendary Encounters. That system now incorporates many other franchises. This is for the Alien system. You can also get Predator, and I think Firefly was Encounters as well. Yes. I prefer the Encounters system to the basic Legendary system because it is fully cooperative. It has a cooperate mechanism where you can spend cards on other people's turns to help them out, and you aren't penalized for it. So it's actually a more efficient way to play the game is to play cards on other people's turns. You then get to draw one. And so you get to play more cards if you cooperate. I like that. I also like that the threats that come at you are not visible at the beginning when they first show up. You have to spend some attack power to flip them over, and then you can start dealing with them while they can't hurt you. But if you leave them until they work their way all the way down this path, then they reveal and they may really hurt you. So I like that unknown that really brings to life the theme of these aliens attacking the spacecraft. I like the system better. It's still a deck builder, you're still building a team of folks, you're trying to get synergies and the symbols on your cards, but this feels more like a real cooperative experience, fully cooperative experience, where you are not at all penalized for helping each other. Legendary Encounters. I love how you can play through all the movies, too. They give you, like, movie sets of cards to put together. Great game.
15. Istanbul.
Not Constantinople. Cautionary tale, kids. If you travel with boxes, as you would with Istanbul, because it's a great game, I was bringing it to a lot of places, make sure you stack them properly in your game bag, because this one got a little squashed. I mean, it's not terrible, but still makes me sad. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to move Istanbul to another box, or maybe one of those, game storage systems, like a Game Folio or a BitBox or something. But anyway, in Istanbul, you have a grid of locations, and you can move your stack of people to those locations to trigger their abilities. Ultimately, you're trying to earn gems, and it's a race to see who can acquire a certain number of gems to win the game. You're collecting goods, you are selling those goods, earning money, turning that money into gems, achieving gems for getting a certain number of tiles before other people. A whole lot of ways to get these gems, but the mechanism as you move around this grid, which is variable, you can set it up in different ways for each game, you can only move 1 or 2 spaces, and you have to leave one of your assistants, one of the discs in your stack, at that location in order to trigger it. Or move to a location where you already have a disc, pick up that disc, and then you can trigger it. Sometimes, at some point in the game, you're going to have to collect all of your workers again at the fountain. You can just sort of teleport there and send all of your workers back home and take an action to reset, and then you have your whole stack again. But because it's a race, you're spending time to do that. It's a great game. Another one that I think is very accessible, it's very colorful, you got those nice shiny gems. You know very well, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get these gems. Here are the many places around the board where I can do it. Now how am I going to make that happen? How am I going to earn enough coins to buy that gem? How am I going to get the goods I need to buy that gem? How am I going to acquire these specialization tiles in order to get this gem? How am I going to expand my cart in order to get this gem? It's fun. It's a good time. And you can see it's a well-worn copy of Istanbul. My number 15.
14. Pandemic the Cure.
Number 14. Pandemic the Cure. This is with the expansion as well. Matt Leacock's dice version of Pandemic. Advantages here are that it sets up super fast. Faster than basic Pandemic. And also, folks like rolling dice. Each character has their own set of custom dice with different symbols, different frequencies of different symbols. So you feel like you definitely have a strength. Like most of the powers come out in that assortment of symbols on your dice. The medic, for example, just has a whole lot of cure symbols. So just inherently, they've got more power in removing dice, which represent the diseases in this game, from the board. It's a much more simplified board. There's only 6 locations representing continents. The diseases are dice, and you are removing them from the board. When they come out, they get rolled, and that shows where they go. If you get too many of a color in one location, they're going to cascade clockwise around the board. If that happens too many times, you'll lose. As a dice game, it can go tremendously well or tremendously poorly, just on the whim of the dice. But most of the time, you have a nice struggle in trying to manipulate the disease cubes on the board, the disease cubes in the center of the board that are in the CDC. You would have to collect samples of these dice in order to cure them. It feels different from Pandemic. It feels like it is a Pandemic game, but it requires different strategies than regular Pandemic. It plays quickly. Again, another success with the non-gamer family members, and my wife really enjoys it. It's Pandemic the Cure, the dice version, and number 14.
13. Unlock.
Number 13 is my favorite of the current swath of escape room games. That is Unlock. This is also from Space Cowboys, the folks who made Time Stories. Unlock, very simply, I'm not going to show you the back, don't worry about it, is a deck of cards. You open up the box, there's instructions, there's a tutorial scenario, which is very helpful for learning the game, and then there's a bunch of numbered cards. And you can combine items in the game. They have like red puzzle pieces and blue puzzle pieces. You can put those together, you add the numbers, and then search the deck for that combination. And if it's there, that means you've advanced in the story, you have found a new item, unlocked a door, whatever. There's also an app that goes along with this game that sort of guides you along. You enter some codes, it may play audio clues. I love the contained aspect of this system. You've got the cards, you've got the app, and you are looking for hidden objects in these illustrations, so certainly have good lighting when you play this game. But I like having that you sort of know what your box is that you're playing with, and I know I'm trying to combine things and put them together, and it feels like I'm playing Myst. It feels like I'm playing one of those video game single screen exploration games, and then I move to another screen, I explore that. I'm playing The Room, I'm playing Forever Lost with these, and my kids have really enjoyed playing these with me. This one is The Island of Dr. Gorse. Be warned that that is a two-team scenario, so you want to have two players that are strong to split them up and put them in opposite teams. But it emphasizes communication more than the others do. The others sort of work well as a single scenario or a single team scenario. So just be warned about the island scenario. I still like it. Just know. So far, it's my favorite system of the escape games, and I can't wait to play more Unlock. It's number 13.
12.
Hello? Are you still there?
Tiny Epic Galaxies, Tiny Epic Galaxies.
12 is Tiny Epic Galaxies, a game that has grown so big it needs 2 Tiny Epic boxes to fit it. Tiny Epic Galaxies, again my favorite of the Tiny Epic games from Gamelin Games, is a space-based game where you are trying to earn points by acquiring planets into your empire. And you do this by rolling dice and selecting the symbols that are on those dice. You can gain resources, you can move forward on colonization tracks in 2 different varieties, 2 different flavors. You can move your ships around the board, and you can trigger what are called colony actions, which can expand your empire, like upgrade your empire, level it up, as well as trigger abilities on planets that you've already acquired. You also can follow what other players are doing. If you've achieved or banked enough culture, one of the resources in the game, you can watch what other players are doing, and when they say, I'm taking a move action, you can say, me too, spend one of your culture, and then treat it as if you rolled that die, and move your ships around the board. Or, I'm going to upgrade my empire. You say, me too, I'm going to do that. So now you're 1, engaged on everybody else's turn, and 2, being more efficient, taking more actions when it's not your turn. But getting that system to work, banking enough culture during the course of your turn so you can do stuff on other people's turns, is a tricky aspect sometimes, and one of the keys to playing the game well. The Into the Black, Beyond the Black expansion adds a whole bunch of new rules, new pilots. You can sort of specialize the ships. You can explore unknown planets. Is also very cool, but I don't recommend it for brand new players. Certainly play the base game first when you introduce the game. It's great. It's one of my go-to games. I love the dice rolling aspect. I love watching what other players are doing, and it's been a hit with lots of groups I've introduced it to. Tiny Epic Galaxies, number 12.
I am the Lorax, and I speak for 11.
Potion Explosion.
Number 11 is Potion Explosion, one of my wife's new favorite games. She asks to play this all the time. The comparison here is that it feels like a match 3 game. You have a rack full of marbles. In fact, I can show you here. You got a rack full of marbles, and they're all in different colors, and you will grab one of those marbles on your turn, hopefully causing the others to slide down and collide with like colors. And you get those marbles too. And you can even cause a multiple chain cascade thing and get a whole bunch of things in your fist. And then you spend these marbles to achieve recipes to make potions. The potions can then be used to manipulate the board, get you more marbles, let you recharge other potions, and they also earn you points. Getting varieties, it's a set collection game, getting varieties of potions or multiples of the same potion earn you awards, and that's also the mechanism for ending the game. Once enough of those awards have been given out, that ends it. It goes faster than you might think. It's a quick game, although there can be the I'm staring at the board for a while trying to come up with the best cascade. You can't do a whole lot of planning until it's your turn because the board's going to change. There is an expansion. The 5th ingredient that adds a new wild marble into the mix. I enjoy this as well. Also gives some global powers, some new potions. I don't know how to fit it into the main box yet. I mean, the insert on the main box is so nice. I don't know. There's new potions and new tiles and stuff to figure it out. I haven't figured that out yet. Still, the expansion's cool. Potion Explosion remains not only one of my wife's favorites, but one of mine, because of the instant recognition for folks who play Candy Crush or other match 3 games. While it's not a direct translation, it scratches that itch. And there is even an app version that you can try out. It has that tactile feel, the clack of the marbles, the grabbing of a fistful of them as you create a giant cascade. It's a blast to play, and a success with my kids as well. They all know how to play this game too. Potion Explosion, number 11. Oh, empty tables. So sad. But you can cheer me up by playing some games. We'll see you back home for the finale in just a bit. Thanks for watching.
He's got a voice that's really the bomb. He'll make a choice that'll aggravate Tom. I hate to spoil it, but when all's said and done, Merchant of Venus gonna be number 1.
Every summer is
Top 1.